casualties. All the medical staff are running all over the place. There are victims thrown in the road. Nobody can free them. Nobody can bring them to the hospital. It's a chaos here in the hospital. That's the way I describe it. We call for an urgent call for everybody in the world, United States, European Union, all the Arab leagues, all the Arab countries. Please do come here to help us. We are an innocent people. They haven't done anything. They have just demonstrated peacefully. They were on their way to the hospital and they were shot dead. We have a lot of deaths here. I cannot describe the situation. It's awful. It's awful. That's the way we can describe it. It's chaos. The hospital is full of casualties. All the medical staff are running on their feet. It's quite difficult to accommodate all of these casualties. The hospital is nearly full. We've taken a lot of patients to the theater. We took patients to the ICU. The accident emergency is full of casualties. It is unbelievable scene. It's undescribable.
Doctor, I know that you have a job to do there, and we appreciate you talking to us. Can you update us on the number of people that you believe have died?
It's uncountable, my friend. It's uncountable. It's very difficult to count the number of casualties. We can't even identify them because they don't even hold their IDs. They were thrown on the roads. There are tens, if not hundreds, of people are just still on the road. The ambulance cannot reach them. They were stopped by the police guard. They can't access them. It is very hard to describe the situation. It is really, really hard. It's unbelievable, as if we are in a war. These people are innocent. They don't hold machine guns. They don't hold swords, as the government has said. These are just innocent demonstrators. It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. We call for urgent help. The ministers, the foreign ministers who were there in Bahrain yesterday should call for help for people, not to support the government who is killing their people. It's very hard to describe the situation. I mean, it's awful.
I mean, he did sound, you were here, Ibrahim Shakhi, when I was talking to him, he did sound absolutely at his wit's end. I mean, it was extraordinary to listen to that. And then, about 15, 20 minutes ago, we were talking to the leader of the opposition on the offer by the Crown Prince of Bahrain to hold talks. He said, no, we can't do it right now.
That's true. Actually, it is expected of the opposition now to play an important role, and the role that they can play actually to be a responsible opposition. Because the opposition, Al-Wifaq, all what they have done so far is that they just withdrew from the parliament, which is their right to do so, because the government is treating the crisis in a whole different approach.
Does a responsible opposition in the eyes of the ruling Bahraini means one that does exactly what the government wants it to do, or is it an actual opposition?
Well, and a responsible opposition actually would provide a link to the protesters, to the people, and be able to connect to the people and to be able to represent them, because they voted for them and they...
but if they're powerless to bring in change, in other words, everything they do comes to nothing, then both they and the protesters are going to think that there's no point in going back to Parliament. This is the only way, with pressure on the streets, that we can achieve real change.
The most important thing, David, at this point is that really we haven't reached a no point back or a turning point in this. I think there is still an opportunity to manage this situation, and unfortunately we have seen that many opportunities are being missed. And in the other crises, the other uprisings that happened before, we are not learning the best practices of when that happened. There is the leaders keep missing opportunities, and I'm afraid that we are missing an opportunity now of managing the situation and be able to engage the opposition in a meaningful dialogue, and for them to play that responsible opposition role and to be able to because if we miss this opportunity, then we will be pushing the crisis into a new direction, a violent direction, where we would start to see underground operations and people, violent operations.
So the Crown Prince was not exaggerating when he said my country is at a turning point?
Well, he actually we're getting there soon. And if now the major responsible parties, I see the government in the first place, of course, and the opposition, the Al-Wifaq, and of them playing a responsible party role to keep the situation under control and to engage in and to address their grievances grievances and to engage in serious measures that would address these grievances. And that is how the situation be managed. Otherwise, we will be getting into a new approach again of underground violent operations by individuals that would not understanding where the sources are coming from.
Take a look with me now, Ibrahim, at this map we've got that shows North Africa and the Middle East. And I'm going to talk you through a few countries, and I want you to tell me what's happening in them at the moment. OK, Bahrain, that's in the smallest writing there, just below Iran. What about Oman?
Oman, we haven't heard so much about. There were some calls for some reforms and some Facebook thing, but
Jordan?
Jordan, we have seen actually like a bubble, like 2 weeks ago, and there was a change in the government, and the government was changed, and then an old face, Maruf al-Bakhit, was brought into the government, and then things quiet for a little bit, and today we have seen also some serious developments in Amman, in Jordan, which actually bring quality to the whole protest operations in Jordan.
It all seemed to start, from my memory, in Algeria, didn't it? That was where the food protests were before everything went wrong in Tunisia.
That is true. And Algeria, Algerians, they keep going back to their first intifada, or their first uprising back in 88, 89, when things happened. And now Algeria, with a very similar situation to Egypt and Tunisia, we might expect to see things develop there again.
Well, in fact, Ibrahim Shakir here described to me Libya as the meat in the middle of the sandwich, with Egypt on one side and Algeria on the other. And it's to Libya now that we turn our attention, because within the last few hours, supporters of the Libyan leader, man who's been in power for more than 40 years, Muammar Gaddafi, his supporters are threatening directly to kill demonstrators. Colonel Gaddafi's revolutionary committees say that anybody crossing what they describe as a red line will be committing suicide. There are reports of more than 20 deaths, at least 20 deaths. Most of the trouble up there in the eastern corner, northeastern corner of the country, in Benghazi. That's Libya's second biggest city. Let's get a roundup of events in the country from Hazem Sika.
A defiant show of support for Libya's strongman. State TV shows Muammar Gaddafi with cheering crowds in Tripoli, rallying behind the man who's ruled them for 4 decades. It's in the face of widening protests that may be the most serious challenge yet to his regime. Inspired by events in Tunisia and Egypt, the biggest demonstrations have been taking place in the country's second biggest city, Benghazi. A number of videos posted on YouTube, but which we cannot independently verify, appear to show the violent response from security forces. Gunshots are clearly heard, and a young man with what looks like a bullet wound to his head is found near a large pool of blood. And witnesses say more demonstrations have been taking place in Benghazi on Friday.
What's happening in Benghazi is a big massacre. People are being killed on the streets. People are demonstrating peacefully. They are asking for a decent life, not more than a decent life.